Welcome. This is the middle school aspect. Many of you have heard that we did modules over the last summer, or at least you're curious about it or have heard something. We spent 2 weeks in the summer working with our educators from across the region, K through 12, developing different modules that you could drop into any lesson, mostly specific to math, science, and technology, obviously, because that's where nanotech seems to fit the most. But what I will say is one of the things that we really focused on, and although this is the middle school presentation, one of the things that we focused on with all of our primary and intermediate, the K through 5, was including literature, nonfiction literature. So if you cross over into your elementary grades, know that. One of the things that we're building is putting in books, like I said, because that informational text is a big deal now, and obviously it is because kids need to be able to use the information in our world as it's coming to us now. And that's kind of what this is. We chose to call this fanning the flame because in the elementary we're lighting the spark. So now we're going to keep kids interested and hooked, or get them hooked, where it's really, really exciting place to be, which is why you're here. And so excited you all have that after lunch kind of, But you are going to get to play. Fortunately, one of the first things we're going to get to play with is soapy water, so quite appropriate after we've eaten, right? Maybe before. No, anyways. I'm happy to have with me today one of the teachers who worked on both of the weeks this summer. So on the two that we're highlighting, and keep in mind, we're highlighting the activities in these modules. As I shared with, I have some repeat faces. We don't have the entire it takes almost a year to turn around the modules for many reasons. We did the work in the summer. There's a lot of certain ways and certain suppliers and all of those kinds of things. So getting all the pieces together and having the teachers who created the modules work with them in their classrooms first before we put it out as a package deal. We will have them ready to go in March. Those are our professional development days. Later in the workshop, if you haven't already seen it, there's a flyer up here with these gentlemen. And you probably have the trifold. It's probably in your folder that you received. If not, I'll be sure you get one before the end today. Okay, I'll have more of those to hand out. All right? So there's more modules than we're talking about today. We're going to focus on two specifically. But my colleague here is Marianne Nickloy. She's a math teacher at Draper. So I'm going to turn over the magic mic here. She can talk a little bit about that experience.
When we went ahead and met, it was a group of, the first week we had a total of 5 science teachers and myself as a math teacher trying to support and make sure the science that was there could be supported with the math that the Common Core was looking for the students to be able to do at the middle school, and making sure that they coincided with each other so that we weren't expecting students to do math that was something completely out of their realm of knowledge of even being able to do. And that became definitely a challenge as we worked through this. And the science teachers were like, yes, but they should be able to. And I said, yes, but the state is not expecting them, or nationally looking for them to be able to do that at that point in time. So it was definitely a challenge as we went through these modules to try to make sure that the science that was expected for them along with the math was going to be able to coincide with the modules as we created them. So that was the first thing. The first week that we ran into obstacles as we tried to create. As we worked into the second week, I ended up being the only one that was there for both weeks. And the second week, we then had more heavily math teachers and had no science to be able to go ahead and make sure what we were looking mathematically was going to go ahead and work with the sciences. So it was definitely a challenge as we went ahead and looked at this. We're looking at the modules that we have. I have not been able to go ahead and, at this point, created it with the students in the classrooms. But hopefully we'll be able to here shortly. So that was pretty much the way we've looked at them so far at this point.
This is interesting. I didn't get to know that we were getting this special treat until it came in. So always going with the flow. That's how it is. So now the next thing we did, and I want this to be really brief because I want to be able to play with you, and when we're done, then we'll be able to call it a day. We don't have to stay till 5, and I promise you we won't, because if I leave at 5, I don't get my son in time, so you're in luck. Probably other folks in here for the same situation, right? Okay, so what I'd like to do briefly, though, and I don't know if this matters for the tape, is that what I want to do is have everybody just briefly state who you are and a basic description of, like, do you teach middle school science? Do you teach middle school math? Are you a supervisor? You know, what is your role? So it gives us a feeling for the audience here, okay?
Ryan Lewis, Rainbow Central School, by half hour south of here, maybe 50 minutes south of here. I teach middle school technology.
Excellent.
Steve Gilman at Crane Middle School, 7th grade science, and also the director for intermediate level science for the State Science Teachers Association.
My name is Carl. I teach high school, middle school tech.
Fantastic.
Hi, my name is Stacy. I work at Gilderman Middle School as a technology teacher.
Elon News, superintendent here at Rose Springs. Joe Greco, director of math science and technology innovation at Rose Springs.
And Joe is also a member of our advisory board.
Blackinger, I teach technology grades 7 and 8 at St. Andrews.
Excellent.
Mike Sigoni, teach technology at Airplane Middle School in Mosquito.
Dawn Wetwater, Berlin High School, and Berlin High School.
That's why your face is familiar. I drive up to Berlin every so often. I work with the math teachers there. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Marilyn Farger. I'm the executive director of the Florida Advanced Technological Education Center.
Well, welcome. Welcome. Glad you came up into this cold. You're crazy right now.
I'm Linda Rose from NEATEC and Philippines and the middle school science teacher.
Excellent.
I'm Kevin Edlin from Fulton City School District, South Lansbury, North Carolina.
Yeah, you're back for another dose? Is that? No. I thought I saw you earlier, right? Right? Yeah.
Lindsay Sutton from Fort Health Wellington Lake, and I'm a middle school science teacher.
Excellent. Welcome.
Jen Ryan, I'm the science technology supervisor.
Welcome back.
And Ron Foster, national principal of Voorheesville.
Excellent.
Joe Iannotti, I teach 8th grade science at Voorheesville.
Happy Virus, I teach forensic science at Wellington.
Excellent.
Mark Place, chief information officer of the city schools, former earth science teacher.
He put his cape away. He was my savior earlier today with all the technological issues. I almost had them pull you out of the audience earlier today, too. Excellent. I can appreciate that. And you just heard from Ricky. He was up in your school recently, I think. Newcomb, right? Yeah, yeah. Excellent. Well, welcome. So this is quite the crowd. These are folks, a lot that Marianne has used to work with, so that's good. We're going to open up. We're going to start out with, yes, we have a ruler. Another amazing intern we have here is Jude. Thank you. I sent them on a treasure hunt for a ruler because we need things like this to measure, and it wasn't in the kit when I opened it up after lunch. So it's one of those many, many challenges of life. So I found little smaller ones, too, in my bag. All right. So the first thing we're going to talk about are thin films. And I have an interesting little story behind this because this is one of the modules I really wanted to do. And actually, we do it to a different level. I don't remember if it's one of the ones I have for tomorrow. I have to go back and look. But we did it middle school level. We're doing it with soap and soapy water, right, I think? And then in high school, we have, I'm not going to remember the name of the acid, but there's a kind of acid that if you, say that again? Oleic acid, correct. And that's where, if you saw, when we show my desktop again, if you see that, that's with the oleic acid. And I did that last year at this conference. But the story behind all of that is that Ben Franklin, so those of you who were with me this morning already heard this. How many know the story that Ben Franklin really was the first one to discover a nanometer? Besides, well, you were, did you hear it this morning? I did. I can count on Steve for an honest answer every time, which is good. All right. We all know he was the postmaster. So he was investigating why the mail was going at different speeds to England and back from England. This is before, and I think Joe is the one who told me the trade winds, right? So discovering that, because they were just plotting a straight line and couldn't figure out why he was quicker in one direction than the other, why the male went. So Ben Franklin went along to see what was happening. Well, what he noticed is the cooks were throwing the oil out, obviously. It would go out on the water, and it would, instead of disperse, it would just form a pool and sit. And he was curious about that. So he went back and he investigated it like on a pond in his backyard, whatever, and along the way discovered that that thin layer where the oil, it was cohesive to a certain point, that was exactly a nanometer. He was the first one to discover it. And this is the beginnings of that. So what I'm going to show you now is a little bit about what you would get with some of the paperwork that comes with it. I have to admit, again, because we're always working with what we have. And unfortunately with this, we have a finite amount of soapy water and 2 trays. So we are going to have to form like 2 groups up here and kind of look and watch what happens under Mary Ann's guidance, because she had more time to play with this over the summer than I did. And I will admit, because she got to immerse herself with the science teachers, which I think was a lot of fun, where I oversee just the general, all of the modules. I was just facilitating things this summer. So I'm going to pull up this just to show you this is one of our more complete ones at this time. And everything is always a work in progress, obviously. And I apologize, well, I shouldn't, but my screen, even though it's projected here, it's an Acer screen, so it's like that. So you see what? Maybe somewhere between 2/3, and a half of what you would normally see. So, but that's what we have, and it's working, so I'm grateful for that. But here's what we want to talk a little bit about why you chose this picture. Is this a picture you chose? No? Okay. This is the glass plate, and this is the air bouncing off of it, obviously, but that's what we see with the film. I think that was the point of that. And all of them are going to have the NEATEC mission statement, sponsors, talks about STEM. These are all things we know or we wouldn't be here, so it's a little bit of preaching to the choir. They're all going to have essential questions, and here's some of the things we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about measuring, with or without the ruler. So we have a ruler, and we're also going to talk about how that might happen. How to do light waves and odor. How do light waves and color provide clues? Does the structure and orientation of a thin film affect its thickness? Okay, so those are all questions that when you do the complete lab, you'll have answers for. We're going to play with one of the major components or the major activities within the lab. We will have all the science standards, and you will see one of the other ones I'm going to be putting in here is some of our ELA, because clearly we're going to discuss and describe what's going on and talk about it. And as you know from the ELA standards, those are very dense in all of those areas. So that's going to be helpful, especially the folks who teach everything in a particular grade, like our friend from Newcomb. Okay? And clearly here we're dealing with the volume of a sphere. And interestingly enough, if we can really encourage kids and get them excited, on a side note, one of the things that Mary Ann and I noticed when all of this stuff is coming out with assessment, which I promised myself I wouldn't talk about today, and here I am, but one of the things that we noticed on the math assessment is that on our reference sheet, that's one of the only formulas not provided, is the volume of a sphere. So maybe this will help and they'll get excited and they'll remember that colorful ball and they'll think of it. Who knows? But anything that we can do to help them. Okay. So here's some things they even thought about, and I think this was very thoughtful and just plays to their dedication as middle school and that level of educator, is they really thought about what to do for kids who had special needs, whether they're visually impaired or otherwise. So we talk about different needs. And here's the bubbles. So we've got the water and the soap is already mixed. This has already been mixed. So cotton gloves, maybe we could borrow from the gloves from the other?
I don't know whether they will or won't. That was what the direction was, to use the cotton gloves so that for the science people here.
Yep.
We're looking at the actual cotton glove is going to go ahead and keep the surface tension between the thin film of the bubble and your hand and the oils. The oils will pop the bubble, where the cotton glove will go ahead and hopefully preserve that so that you can go ahead and actually hold on to it. And that was the use of the cotton glove there. of what we were looking at.
Okay, so we do have some gloves for the other experiment, and I think we're going to steal a couple. So we're going to have a couple volunteers on each of our bubble trays, yeah, and we're going to go ahead and do that. What was that? There aren't straws?
I don't see anything.
Okay, so you're going to steal some straws for me? All right. Oh, that could be our wands at that rate. No, I wouldn't have any in there. That's all sand and UV beads. Okay, so we have it ready to go. We're going to do that in a second. That's going to be our first. And then we have questions here. And we're actually also going to watch some videos. So while we're catching up on those last details, I'm going to pull you into this video here. And we're going to pray I have a little bit better luck. I think we'll be all right, though. No. Is this this should be a hyperlink, right? Nope. There it is. Did it work? Right there? No? Click, click. Am I holding down CT control? Yeah, control. That'll work. There it goes. See, we have a room of tech folks. Beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. Oh, no. Good, there we go.
Thin films are a vital part of everyday life. Why, it's Mr. Squirrely. Mr. Squirrely, did you know thin films can help you see better at night? Would you like to learn how? Of course you would. Thin films are coatings that are applied to thicker materials for a variety of useful purposes. They are usually less than 1/100th the thickness of a human hair. So where can you find thin films? Just about everywhere, in things you use every day. Any modern day electronic device has hundreds of thin films to process and store information, and to form and to insulate the millions of tiny wires that connect everything together. LCD TVs are made of stacks of thin films. One thin film conducts electricity to all the different pixels, while other films transmit the red, green, and blue light when electricity is applied. Did you know you even have examples of thin films in your pocket right now? Your cell phone, for example, has thin films to cut down screen reflections and to protect its sensitive electronics from being shorted out by moisture. And adding a thin film coating to your glasses will cut down glare. So remember, thin films are a vital part of everyday life, as you can plainly see.
We thought that would capture the attention of our kids, right? It'd be interesting. Okay, and the other video we have, Marianne, is, do you want to watch it now or after they play?
I'm not sure exactly which one we're looking at here, so.
All right, I got to do the control again. Got to listen to my tech folks.
Why, it's Mr. Squirrely taking a quiet bath. Ah, so relaxing. Mr. Squirrely, have you ever wondered why you can see so many colors in your soap bubbles? Would you like to find out? Of course.
Oh, this is fun. So obviously you can see where we're going with this, because we're going to be dealing with soap bubbles. He just gets extra. I need that claw in my life sometimes, just to zip me from one place to another. Yeah. What if I cheat a little bit? That doesn't matter?
Relaxing. Mr. Squirrely, have you ever wondered why you can see so many colors in your soap bubbles? Would you like to find out? Of course you would. A soap bubble is a thin film, but its thickness varies across the surface. Because light is made up of red, green, and blue light waves, different amounts of each color are reflected off the surface. Let's find out why. Light is a wave, and different color light waves have different wavelengths. When a light wave hits the surface of a translucent film, some of it is reflected off the upper surface, some is reflected off the bottom surface, and the rest passes right through. Here is a blue light wave hitting the surface of a bubble. As you can see, some of the wave is reflected off the top, some is reflected off the bottom, and some passes right through. In this spot, the thickness of the bubble corresponds to the length of the wave. So, the waves that reflect off the top and bottom of the bubble line up perfectly, sending a very strong blue signal back into the air. Now, suppose a red light wave is hitting the same part of the bubble. Because red light waves are longer, the portions that reflect off the top and bottom surfaces do not line up. They cancel each other out and do not create a very strong red reflection. However, if the bubble was thicker, then the red light waves would line up and the blue light waves would cancel each other out, making the bubble appear red. We can plot how much light is reflected for the entire color spectrum. This bubble has lots of blue, some green, and very little red, so it appears greenish blue. Since we know how long light waves are, we can look at the color of the bubble and determine the thickness. I'll bet you never thought bath time could be so educational. See, Mr. Squirrely? Measuring thin films is good, clean fun.
All right, so let's have some good, clean fun. Interesting ideas of what comes after that. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. And then there's post-activity. I'm going to pull up part, and then there's resource. And I think one of the teachers in the last session was asking about resources, and so this will be built in. All right, so here's some information about the bubbles themselves. But I'm probably, once again, you guys know this, right? Because this is what we're looking for, this surface here. Make sense? Do you have any questions? I mean, I don't want to, like, now that I know who you are, I'm certainly not going to teach you something you guys already know. We're just going to have fun with how this looks and works for our kids. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Mary Ann. I'm just going to set it up, and I will switch roles and become her assistant.
And then, do you have that worksheet? Do you have the, pull it up. No. We're looking at what the original intent was, is to go ahead and get him excited there about that. We didn't know a whole lot. Like I said, this was the second week, so it was math teachers more so as we went ahead and looked at this. And the science part of it was just kind of excite them about it, the whole idea of the thin film and the surface of it. We were looking at more of that 8th grade topic of where they needed to find the surface area and the volume of a sphere. And it just kind of brought it all about with, oh, there's that cool idea of the bubble, and we can go ahead and move from there. So what we went ahead and were looking for the kids to do was to then take and use the science part of it as they looked at the bubbles and they seen the different colors as it was swirling around, as you seen in the first photo shot. That the bubbles have different colors, which is then giving the thickness of what the actual thin film is. We're looking at, we would have them, and there was a spot, I know one of the worksheets, we had them kind of to,
Where they tell what to do. Go ahead, tell me where to stop.
we were looking for them to go ahead and take and get an idea of what their bubble looked like. Take a quick idea looking at it, what colors were they seeing as they went ahead and had blown the bubbles, so that they had an idea that the thickness of it, and hopefully noticing as the change in the color went ahead and kept going, it would go into a very, it was interesting. The color would almost kind of disappear, and maybe the science people in here could give me a little more information along that it would disappear, and that was right when the bubble was going to go ahead and get to the point of that it was going to pop. Whether it's because of the thin, that it's getting that thin, is that what it is? So the color kind of disappears, and we're left with the bubble popping at that point. So what we were trying to do was to get the bubble and capture the bubble so that they could go ahead and do some measurements on it. And we were trying to think of ways that we could go ahead and be able to do that mathematically. So that was where we came up with more so, and I'm not sure whether these trays will work or won't. In most cafeterias, the styrofoam trays is what most cafeterias were using nowadays. So the thought is to take one of those cafeteria trays and have the kids to go ahead and actually take and transfer a measuring item onto it, whether it be inches or centimeters based on the teacher's preferences or the student preferences, and creating that bubble, which then was going to be blow a bubble onto the flat surface, go ahead and manipulate it with your straw or whatever so that you could actually take a measurement of what your diameter was of the bubble. From there, do the calculations of what, of course, this now is just a hemisphere and not a full sphere, so you'd be finding your surface area or volume for your half of your bubble. To be able to have a hands-on item that they could actually be doing that with instead of giving them something like a basketball, you know, which they're not going to be able to get the true diameter without trying to cut it in half. They'd have to deal with the measurements of dealing with your circumference and then calculating your diameter and things from there. So we were trying to do something that was a little bit different, hands-on, and hopefully that they would enjoy dealing with the science aspect of it also as we worked through this. So what we will do, we've got what, the 2 trays?
We've got two of these trays now. We'd also have those. Do you want to try it with those?
They may also work in there. I don't, you know, this is rough. I don't know. What?
Well, maybe we'll go to that then. We'll borrow from the other one because we can actually probably write on the bottom.
Right.
Indent it, right? Yeah, let's do that. This is what we do when we teach, right? We work on the fly. Yeah. Steve, you're in charge of my evaluations again. Okay, give me to Steve. Sure. All 7s. All right. So what we'll do is take that same idea, and I found 3 rulers, one that they went on a treasure hunt for, and I had a couple in my bag because, okay, what math teacher doesn't walk around with their special triangles? Can I get, okay, good. A little laughter. You guys, this is definitely the after lunch crowd. All right, so we can use this for the measurement, I think, and we can probably indent it. Just try not to poke a hole in it because I need it for tomorrow, but I can use it with little dents in the bottom. I don't think that's going to be a big deal. So we should be able to do more. We have, this is all of our water with the mixture you wanted.
Yep.
So how many do you think we
Might
can
grab
do?
some cups.
I'll grab some cups. I'll be right back.
And we
Will
can
you
give
sit
them.
up and then. Okay.
Would we have the 3 measuring?
Yeah. Yeah.
Was
You
what
guys
the,
can
yeah,
trade.
was. That's why that's what our thought was, is to use the styrofoam trays from the cafeteria and use the Sharpies to go ahead and put a ruler on there, because we were thinking that we weren't going to be able to find anything else that we were going to be able to, because I don't know whether it would even set the bubble onto a ruler without it popping type of situation because of that surface tension.
I apologize to metric fans. I only have inches. But, all right, I'll go get a couple cups.
I don't know if you want to join with these guys in here. I don't know if you want to come back situation. Depending upon how big of a bubble you want to go ahead and create in your tray. Now, I don't know, is the pen working on the bottom of those trays? You're going to want it on the inside is probably where we're going to want to go ahead and be working, but that's doing, we all set there? Did you get your rulers in there or into the, did you put your marks in here so that you got an idea whether you want to do like, you know, 1/4 inches or whatever with your measurements to the nearest 1/4 of an inch? Usually, like I said, we'd go ahead and we're thinking the pen will probably write in those. Yes, no, maybe, are they?
Doing fine. Mark it. We're just drawing our little guy to identify Mr. Squirrely.
There you go. Go ahead and get your measurements in there. What they did was they did it on the bottom and made the marks so that it would show through type of thing. It depends which direction, how accurate you want them to go ahead and measure it. And depending upon, like I don't know what the kits are going to contain.
We will have rulers and metric kits. They're still being developed. I mean, this is the whole.
I don't know, is this mixed or is that the glycerin sitting on the bottom?
Probably. Here, use one of these to mix it.
Or is there something, or is it blue on the bottom of this container?
Let's see. No, you're
No.
mixing it. They're probably settled.
Yep. Still should be close enough for him to be able to work from, I believe. How many groups did we end up with there?
4, 5, 6, 7. So 2 more cups. Now bear with me, and I hope you have something to write on, scrap paper, something, because what you would do is each one think about you have the writing observation. You have the thinking.
And again, you're looking, all we've got is the straws to be able to blow our bubbles into. You can. Like I said, I don't know if those gloves, because they're not cotton, I don't know if it'll go ahead and you'll be able to or not. Right, but to go ahead and create the barrier type of situation. Yeah. So once you had your measurement on the bottom so that they had something to work from, when we were working, we were pretty much using like your bubble wands and stuff to go ahead and be able to actually create it. But I'm thinking, hopefully, not knowing this mix either. And again, like we said, wherever you have your measurement in there, you're going to have to take some solution so that you can create that so that it won't, the bubble won't break, is what it's looking like here. In which it won't then pop the bubble by having the solution. And the idea was for them to go ahead and then be able to manipulate or move that bubble around to get it so that they'd be able to do the measurement. And then you should be able to, if you need to slide your bubble one way or the other, so that you'd be able to go ahead and get a measurement on it. And if you notice, in actually these trays, it's very hard to actually see too much color to the film. You do see it swirling around, but that's where we were talking about using the black construction paper behind. If you were, you'd have the construction paper and you'd have the bubble in front of it so that you might be able to see it.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, these are all things that we're looking for to make it even better. So yeah, because it's a reflective surface, it's harder to see. But I love all these people that are being very ingenious about shading and looking. You're being very creative and persistent, like middle school students. Maybe? Close.
It's drying in here too. Yep, you got to be on a surface that's got the, if not, it'll burst. Mm-hmm.
There you go.
See if it will. I don't know if the polyester ones will. Right.
Does it matter which one? I don't know how the handshake thing goes.
I don't exactly remember how that one was. But the idea was. Right, yeah, because of.
Yeah, that'll work.
Yep, they will.
Look at this, guys. We're gonna pass. Oh, you say it out loud.
This was the other idea with the cotton glove, and the ones we do have for the other activity will go ahead and work so that they'd also be able to, again, hopefully, like Heidi was talking, create that excitement so that they'll hopefully remember those formulas that for some reason New York State doesn't think that they need on their reference sheet for the state exam, or we won't see it, hopefully. No, I blew a bubble. Yep, blew it right onto the glove. Oops. Come on, let go.
Yeah.
Right, you can go ahead and see as the colors are changing, and it's easier if you've got, like we were saying, black construction paper behind it so that they could see the colors, and you could see based on the color what the thickness of nanometer on its extremely, extremely small thickness.
Keep the blue, because you need it for the next activity, but it'll also give you black. Keep the blue one, you need it for the next activity. It'll give you black. I didn't realize it was going to be that much of a difference.
Yeah, you can see the colors. As you go ahead and take a look at the surface of it, you can see the colors as the light's reflecting through. It's the thickness of that thin film based on the color of the way the light is reflecting on it. As you see colors, and you look at, as a kid remembering as the bubble keeps swirling, the thickness of that very thin film that's creating that. Yep, in terms of nanometers. You're also looking at a bubble is it the maximum volume with the least amount of surface area too, is what the bubble is creating there.
You'll know, I can't. Hopefully this will be an edited video. This has been nothing but exciting. Just like teaching in the classroom. Our bubble is still surviving up here, Ms. Pruzak. She's not listening to me. Okay, one of the concepts that Marianne just talked about is that, remember, when we do this, what do we know about a sphere? A sphere is the maximum, what's inside the sphere? We got volume, right? The maximum volume for surface area. Think about calculus, think about any other shape we could possibly have. So what happens naturally? So there's all kinds of conversations that can come out of this. And going back, well, okay, so here's where we're measuring. So now what have we talked about? What are the exciting things we've done with our kids? We've measured. So once you get the diameter, you can do things like volume, surface area, right? Then when you talk about thickness, we can multiply that by surface area actually and have the complete, like, coding, if you will. All kinds of cool math you can do with that. All kinds of work with fractions, okay? Let's answer some of these questions. What do you guys think? Did the size of the bubble determine the colors you saw? Did anyone notice that? Was there any difference in the size of the bubble and the colors you saw? There was. What was there? What did you notice?
Due to the thickness varies.
Okay, and so what did you see to the colors? Were they getting thinner? Thinner measurements? Did anybody else notice that? This young man who I know, you said Tom. Tom said, right? Did I say it right?
Yes.
Okay, because I've got so much fluid in my ears. Yep.
Thinner, so the lower on the scale.
Anyone else notice that? Yeah. Guys want to play again with a couple bubbles, see if you see what Tom saw? Yeah, sure. Yeah. I'm going to scroll back down. Well, that's what I'm counting on you. Why? It's all right.
Should it be? Because you've got greenish yellow.
You know, I would have to know more about why the color wavelengths are what they are, which that might be more of a science topic. What I can tell you mathematically, the light, right? The green wave is a longer wave because that's what we just learned, right, in that video. So where the wave, if a complete wave is caught within the thickness of the film, then it's brighter because it coincides where it comes back out. But I don't know. See, that's where I defer to now. Take that student hat off and put the Steve hat that I know so well on and tell me, my videos work great, by the way. Thank you. Tell me why the color is, because now that's where the science teacher comes into play, because I'm not the science teacher. I defer to my learned colleagues in the audience. Yeah.
But the green wavelength, when you're comparing it to the others, should not. That's where I'm questioning.
Questioning the resource? All right, we'll have to double check it, because that's what you guys found when you researched it. They researched it to find those.
It's just not making sense to me.
Okay. Well, these are good questions. These are good questions. So what do you know about wavelength and color? Why is it bugging you?
Because the longest wavelength should be red.
Good question.
He said in the video that when the red wavelength hits the outside of the bubble and hits the inside of the bubble, what you see back is not the wavelength of red. It's some combination of some addition of the two waves. So that table is just the addition of the two waves.
The outside of the film and the inside of the film.
Right, when they coincide.
Wavelength of that color of light, that wavelength is the basis of those two colors combining and telling you that because of their combining you're seeing the picture, it's because it's the thickness of that. That's where I would put my mind.
So I'm wondering if it's splitting the red wavelength in half. Because if that wave is hitting the top and the bottom at the same moment, that could be half of it as well, right? Just thinking about a sine wave or a light wave. Mm-hmm.
That was the information that we were finding, that's what the thickness of the actual film was, based on the visual color that we were seeing.
You gotta love technology. Everybody's on the internet. Everybody's researching it, and we welcome that. This is not written in stone. We welcome. We have it all referenced as far as resources go. But look how much fun we're having. Listen to this. So what if we have the wise-ass kid Steve in the room? Oh, that's probably got to be edited. So what? So what? We have, and he always shows up where I yeah, see? Now listen. And remind me your first name again. Carl. See what Carl just said? I hope I get that question. Why? What did we do? Everybody ran to their phones. Everybody's looking. What are you doing?
Thinking.
You're thinking. You're learning. Like, what is it about that wave? Am I measuring thickness? What's going on? Why is it like that? I saw that little cartoon and it said thus and so. That's what we need to have happen in middle school, right? Any year, but middle school is when we really need to grab them, because otherwise they will take care of their time all on their own without our help. We've got to catch them, because actually that is the perfect time to catch them for this the nano stuff that we're talking about, because it's booming here for us. Even folks who came from a ways to get here today. We've got, what, Global Foundries is just now, they opened up. They're going to have 1,000 more jobs here shortly, I heard on the radio. This is the industry that will employ our kids in middle school. They can finish high school. They can get a 2-year degree and earn a minimum of $60,000. I was not earning $60,000 with a master's and a bachelor's when I started. That was 20 years ago, but still. That's pretty decent for a kid, right? Not just the money, but we need to catch them because they need us. Wouldn't it be wonderful for our kids to be employed like that? So just something to keep in mind. And the middle school kids are the kids we need to catch. And look, we're still having fun. Despite the fact we had to be very creative, as many of us need to be in this day and age, budgets being what they are, we have it on hand, let's use it. Okay? I also want to mention about the kids when they are ready to rock, okay, which they will be. The first opportunity to sign them out is going to sign out for an advanced time, by the way, not sign out immediately, so don't think that. But after the folks who created them, the first people who will be able to get them as the product will be folks that sign up for our days in March. So if you have the trifold, you should have it. Did everybody get it in their folders? No? There were some on the tables. Marianne's coming around with some. There's 3 intense days in March. Each day is designated for a specific grade level band, as you can see. Okay? You will get in-depth work for that entire day on the different modules in that grade band. You will then have the opportunity to sign up for a predetermined time later that you can borrow the material. Does that make sense? And one of the things that we're very conscientious of is we don't want you to scramble once you get this, once it's a really complete package. We want everything in there that you would need to make it happen. You need rulers, and we would not want the rulers with inches. That was a little bit of a challenge. If we were really doing the math, I would be making you guys all convert to centimeters. So we're dealing with centimeters and nanometers. You know, we're all in the metric world. Well, I didn't make you go through that. Although everybody has a calculator because you guys all have phones. So, you know, maybe I shouldn't have been too worried about it. I don't know. But we're going to be able, and in the younger grades, so if you have colleagues that you're thinking of that come up and feed into your programs, we're going to be sure the literature is there. I talked about that already. But we're also going to have, if you need copies of something, there will be copies in there. If you need color copies, there'll be color copies there. Because we want a teacher to be able to open the box and be able to teach it. The other interesting thing is I better get used to this lovely lady over here, because in March, one of the things that will happen is the teachers that created this will be presenting more than just Marianne. There'll be more of them, and me probably again too. But we will be creating a training video from that, from clips, and then it will be over-narrated, you know, for point of interest, and be sure that when you actually, how would you actually lay out the whole entire activity in lab, and not just this. We're getting the high interest piece here today, okay? And then we're going to create those videos, and the video will go out with the module. The rental time, if you will, because there's no fee, so I say that lightly. We'll say borrowing, like loaning from the library. You will have 3 weeks from when you receive it to when it must be back to NEATEC for another teacher to utilize it, okay? Consumable materials like glycerin, the worksheets. Yeah, they'll be there. They'll be all printed. There's a question. I saw a hand. Tom.
If we can't make it to March 12th, will we be able to at least download something like that and supply our own materials?
Well, here's the thing. You'll still be able to if you don't. Just that someone who comes on March 12th would just get to be the first out of the gate kind of thing. Well, there'll be multiple kits.
Be able to go like on your website and click on the water prices
and then, well, you'll be able.
No?
I don't know yet, because we're trying to make this useful for everyone. I mean, I think yes, eventually yes. I can't say exactly when because I'm not in charge of all of those details of it. Because the intention is for this to go out internationally. Because NanoHub is interested in us. We are the first advanced education center in the world to create modules with this intent prior to community college level.
To create the interest in the younger.
Right. So this is these modules and these kits that we're creating, eventually what you're talking about, when it's nice and clean and polished, that is,
I can use it, I can supply my own material.
right, right,
Because you can't
right,
get hold of the kit when you're looking at your
Yeah,
curriculum.
I can't make that.
right.
That would be slick, that could happen.
But what will happen in schools where you might not have the kind of maybe financial backing, and some of the materials, like we got straws and trays, it's not terribly expensive. We were thinking of that. But we're also making it possible for folks that don't necessarily have all that to be able to get that and the training video. That will be part of what we're offering through this NSF grant. And we will have multiple. It's not like there'll only be one thin films, for example. There'll be multiple kits. So several teachers could have it at once time. But it's going to be an ongoing, it's going to be very much like a library system. Because once it comes back, we have to inventory the kit again and replenish anything that's consumable. So those kinds of things will happen. Yes?
How long does this module normally take?
They're all going to be different. This one, I know it had several, it could have been, you could drop pieces of it in different lessons and talk about it, or you could do it as a complete activity. Everybody's got a different length day. So I think one of the things that we thought about was, is there something useful you can do in 30 minutes? And could you extend it if you're in a block situation where you have 80 minutes? Is it something viable for a different time frame? But we knew across the region that we pretty much, everybody has kids in middle school for a continuous 30 minutes. Beyond that, there's no guarantee, frankly, because everybody's all over the place. You know, I know sometimes AIS labs, for example, where you might want to do some of these, AIS math in particular, sometimes get squished opposite lunch or PE or whatever, so you get like 25, 30 minutes. In other cases, you might have a situation where it's 85 minutes or 90 minutes you have with the same group of kids. So there's a lot of different scenarios and everything in between. So we're thinking of that. So you can make it pieces, or you can do it as a whole thing. Yeah. Fantastic. Right, right. So like for instance, if you were to check it out and use it with kids in your school and use it with your Girl Scouts, that's fine. And as a matter of fact, one of the other things we're doing is some of our kits, when you sign up and you indicate that your purpose is some kind of community outreach, which is also part of our goals in NEATEC, you know, that's great. It can be part of a parent night. It can be part of a science fair if you time it right and you have kids doing the science fair, which Girl Scouts I think would fall into that kind of, you know, community outreach. Or Boy Scouts for that matter. Doesn't matter, right? So fantastic. Okay, so do we have fun with soap? All right. So I would normally give a break, but honestly, I do want to we're going to go ahead and talk about the handshake because I want to keep moving ahead because really when we're done, we're done. And when you're done asking questions, that's great. We're going to have fun with our handshakes next. Bless you. Because I know I'm looking at the clock going, it's about 10 till 3. Most middle school teachers are winding down or getting ready for track practice or Girl Scouts or whatever the case is. So I'm conscientious of what time of day it is for you guys. So let's pull those, put the materials on the place. You can keep that if you want. Okay. Just put the materials in the place where we can catch them and we'll rinse them out and do what we need to do with them. And what we're going to do is we're going to move into, keep the gloves. You need your gloves. So now we're going to be looking at the handshake. So I have the pretty pictures here off of their module, and I'm going to pull that up now. Okay. What is self-assembly? These are some of the questions we're asking ourselves. Do the conditions for self-assembly to take place matter? Where do we see self-assembly in our own lives? Now let's think about self-assembly for a minute. You guys listen to that heavy duty talk. How many people were in keynote this morning? Early morning, all that medical stuff, right? Can you imagine those little things in your body fixing you? Isn't that that's quite, it's great. But you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Star Trek. And yes, I'm a geek, I admit it. But you know, like Dr. Crusher and the wand, and she could make people feel, because she could put particles in. Does anybody remember, I've got to find clips of this actually. Does anybody remember the one where the nanoparticles took over the ship? Oh, come on, there's no, yeah, see, okay, there's at least one, yay. And Wesley Crusher saved the day because he figured it out because no one could see them. I think I got to get clips of that for these speeches. I mean, because I think of it every time. But the idea of these particles put themselves together, it's wild. It's wild, okay? And one of the things that they found, and I am going to turn this over to Marianne because she's more familiar with what they did. I'm going to dig down into it a little bit more. But what we're going to do with our handshake is emulate that happening, okay? So I'm going to hand this over to you, and then I'm going to just go through or do you want to go through the slide?
I'll go through the slide. I'm not quite sure.
Okay, just scroll down until we see more, yeah. Okay, so now here we've got our key ideas. Go ahead. This one's aimed right at, well, okay, so we need the computer chip image, so we're going to pull that image up. Okay, so let's go down. We have an instruction sheet.
12 of one color and 12 of another color as well.
Hopefully, I just put them all over, so hopefully we've got that. Okay. Hold on. Must have an even number of kids. Okay, do we have an even number of kids in here? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Yep, we do. Good, 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 good. Does every other person have black and blue? Is that what we're doing? Let's see. Well, everybody should have one color on one. Let's make a decision. Go up. I think we've got to do black. Let's decide. Who's got to have right? Let's see. Right is black or left is black? What do you want to do? Left is black. Right is blue. Everybody do it. We got a free black one up here. We're going to come up with the pattern a little bit.
Right to right, left to left. Can't cross arms.
Okay, this is going to be tricky. Are you guys ready to play Twister? Sort of. No. Especially because Joe brought his superintendent along. That's even better. All right. So the idea being that maybe let's split in half and see what happens. Look at odd if we split in half. So we'll have to go more than half on one and less than half on the other. Let's see if that, or we could split into 3 groups as long as they're even. So I'll let you guys do that. So we don't become an enormous thing. I'll let you switch 3 even groups. You guys are capable of that. With a minimum of 4 in a group. Okay? All right. Follow these rules. Your right hand must touch the right hand of somebody else. So same color gloves, right? And your left hand must touch somebody else's left hand. You cannot cross your arms. But you can move the furniture. You have to have an even number. So then there must be one other odd group. You guys can move furniture. Don't care about that. Yeah, I think so, yeah. You can do 2 groups of 4 if you want, or you can do. Are we forming a pattern? What's a pattern? What do you see? What's a pattern?
We've got a group of 4, group of 6.
Yeah, it worked. But look, everybody solved this riddle the same way, didn't they? Isn't that neat? And that's got to be one of the patterns, right? We have to pull up the pattern sheet. Where is that? That's in here. The kids will be standing in a complete circle. Look at that, inside, outside. So look at that. They showed us this. And that's actually the pattern. What's going on? Okay. So now you guys can sit down again, and we'll be doing this in a second. There's another experiment. That was great. We just learned self-assembly to form a specific pattern. So now we can talk about, we're talking about understanding what the modules are doing at a molecular, submolecular level, and how athletic Carl is. Okay? Molecules will always follow the same patterns if the conditions are exactly the same. So what were our conditions? Couldn't cross your arms. Right. So those are all things that might happen in an environment, right? Or that we might engineer a molecule to do, which goes back to one conversation Joe and I were having earlier with engineering. So this is one example of self-assembly, a supermolecule with a dendritic core and linear shell. You formed a dendritic core and a linear shell. Did you guys know you were doing that? All right. Now, I have to have 15. Okay. You'll volunteer. Thank you. Okay. So, can you guys do this on your own, or do you want Marianne and I to tell you what to do? Well, I need a group of 3 kids. Well, that back table with including Carl looks good. There's 3. Okay. Group 2 is 6. Didn't we have a nice group of 6 back in the back corner there? Okay. And group 3 is 6. We'll use blue. Yeah, you've got to be solid. Okay. So group 1 has a pair of blue gloves in this case. Group 2, you're all set because you have one blue and 1 red. So we'll do 1 black and 1 blue. Okay? And then give each person in group 3 one, we're going to do black because that was a substitution we did, right? So group 3, you've got to have 1 black glove only. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, you're 3. Sorry, Steve, you're 3. Black glove.
Where's our 3 people out? We had 18 originally. We only need 15.
These 3 are out.
Okay.
Right. They can put it on either hand, just one hand. Okay, so I have my group of 6 in the back. You have 2 colored gloves, right? Opposite hands, great. All blue, 1 black on each, 1 black. Perfect. Next. We tried this with smaller kids, and we discovered we really can't do it before middle school. We actually went into classrooms and tried this one. Okay, group 1. You have 1 set of rules. You must hold hands. No hand can be left untouched. You can only hold hands with someone who has the same color glove as you. Okay? So you're all going to converge, and they're going to follow these rules. So group 1, those are your molecule rules. Okay?
And you can't hold any other person in group 1's hand.
Right. Yeah. Can you see middle school doing this? Yes. Okay. You can hold, with the same color. You may not hold hands with any other member of group 1. You may not face any other members of group 1. Yes?
We have to fix something.
What's wrong?
You have to have a different colored glove on each hand for this group.
We do, one of our groups. But that's the solid group. No, we're doing it. Okay, well, we did blue and black. Let's see. Okay, let's follow the rules we have here. Let's see what happens. You must touch both your right and left shoulders to the shoulders of someone else in group 1.
They need to form their group facing outwards was the last thing. Go back up a little. Okay, stop. Small circle facing outwards
You know, we need to write this down.
is what they need to go ahead and do.
Okay. Okay. See? Okay, good. You have. Perfect. Okay, so where are we going to put that center circle? We'll start there. Right up front. We'll move stuff. Yeah. Okay. So you guys are ready. You're going to not face each other, so you're going to be all back to back with your hands out, touching shoulders. That's group 1. All right, let's see if we can figure out group 2 as quickly. All right, group 2. Everybody's got to hold hands. Okay. You guys can't hold hands with anyone? Right? And you must hold your hands straight out. There you go, perfect. So just your spokes of the wheel. Okay, you guys are all out? Perfect, perfect. Look at this. Group 3. You can only hold hands with someone with the same color glove as you, so that's lucky. They all have black gloves. And you may not hold anyone else's hand. What do we have? If we could actually stretch all the way out, what would we have?
Star.
Snowflake, it's called, but a star. Yep.
We're scientists.
It's a star. How much fun would this be, right? And how many molecules have this shape? Okay, cool. Sit back down. Thank you. So there, okay, it's a truncated version somewhat by our movie screen here. But there's an example of what the molecule would look like. What's going on? Okay? This time we made snowflake star. But that's what happens. Snowflakes are self-assembly. Different kinds of ice crystals do different things, right? Oh, it's my 3 o'clock morning. Okay. Not according to that. It's 6. Holy moly. I'm late. I owe them like $5 a minute for 30 minutes. I don't want to think about what that is. Okay. And we talk about the snowflake and how that happens. We talk about them being complex structures, so you can see where this can go. This is pretty exciting. And there's a snowflake. And I bet you this is the one that Aaron was thinking about. Everybody forms a straight line. So do you want to try to do the chain, or do you want to call it? Want to try to do the chain? Let's do it, because we're here. You guys are great sports. And Steve's not going to let us forget the evaluation. Yeah, okay. Okay. All right. Let's see if we can figure this out. Now we're going to go into 2 groups. I have, look in my pocketbook, Marianne. I have pens galore. No, right? Move over a little bit. Yep, just grab. If you pull out my wallet, there's like 1,000 pens in the bottom. Sorry. All right. Yeah, you can just pull a lot of pens out if you want for people. Okay. We're going to have 2 groups. So this time I'm going to pick on some different people. So I'm going to have a group of 4. So I think well, you're the same people, but I'll have the 4 in the back row. You'll be my group of 4, right? That you're group 1. So we're going to call this space up here the space they're defining in a minute. You must stand within the defined box. So we'll move a table. It'll be a box that's up here roughly. And then we have to have 11. So I definitely want to pull our high rollers here in the front row into this group. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So you're in group 2. Okay? Yeah, we have to contain them. Okay, so when we do this, this is this box up here that that black row is contained in. So you can't move outside of it. All right. How are they going to engulf it if we have tables around them, though? Because they've got to be able to walk. Because it has to be like open. All right, you know what we're going to do? We're going to define it with straws. Ready? Okay. No, I'm just using them on the ground like rocks. I'm being inventive.
Just your 4 corners going to work?
Yeah. Okay. Back row. Okay. Back row. You can kind of see up here, we're going to be a really chummy bunch. The back row, folks, you can move anywhere in here, which it says up there. You can stand anywhere in the defined box, but you can't go outside of it. So I've got a box up here with red straws. But the second group, the 11 people I counted off, you have to join hands in a straight line. And then you have to move towards group 1, but you can't let them break your chain. And you have to try to engulf them. Right. What was that? Joe, what would you say? We're making a gel capsule, right? Because what you're doing is you're going to push, because you can't go like this is like your stomach lining, right? Right? It's pushing you against, or it's pushing you until you get absorbed kind of thing. It's a time release. A gel capsule is a time release, right? So the question becomes if you want to do it or not, because everybody else is letting people go. So I'm not going to hold you hostage. We're good. You didn't want to get engulfed, did you? All right, I'm going to put one more thing up here, so don't leave just yet, but be sure you keep, we need the gloves back. You might see them again if you choose to check out a module. Okay, so Marianne's going to come around for the gloves. Okay, now, if you were here earlier, you've already seen this, so I do apologize. It is funny, though. I pulled this cartoon up, and I just love levity. It's one of the things that I use. So it's kind of a little hard to read. So it's Peppermint Patty says, wow. There are 10 millimeters in 1 centimeter, 100 centimeters in 1 meter, and 1,000 meters in 1 kilometer. I can't remember all that. Why are they trying to do this to us? I just got inches and feet figured out, Marcy. Now they throw metrics at us. I'll go crazy. You'll catch on before you know it, sir. Somebody's always trying to change things. It's those people on the school board. They always get carried away. You give them a millimeter and they'll take a kilometer. Okay, never mind. See, you're catching on, sir. Okay, your younger colleagues thought that was really funny this morning. All right, this is Marianne and I. This is our contact information. We are going to be creating more follow-up modules this coming summer. If you're interested in being part of that work, which I've already got Joe lined up, that'd be amazing. Okay? It takes about a year for the units to go out into the marketplace, so to speak, just because of all the things that go into that. But you would be able to pilot it during the course of the next school year, and then it would go out beyond that. So if you're interested, be sure you stay in touch with me and/or look on neatec.org. Information will be there. And if you are on Facebook, I have a From Counting Cows to Calculus page. I have a lot of fun with that, but that's all math, and you guys were predominantly tech and science. But if you are interested, because I do professional development, K through 12 mathematics, and I put humor up here, I put resources up here, all kinds of stuff. So it's a cool place, and it's another way to reach me. And I thank you, and hopefully everybody filled out the lovely thing. Thank you very much. And thanks to Marianne. Phenomenal.